Hello, everyone. Lets me know where I'm from and what's time you watch this. Relax and get comfortable. Let's dive in.
I'm in a relationship with a guy who works in tech, and we've been together for a while now. He works at a large company as a programmer, while I'm a mechanical engineer at a robotics startup. Our career paths are different, and while he's in a more stable job, I've been working on more cutting-edge, hands-on projects, which I absolutely love. It's not easy, but I get a real sense of accomplishment from my work. One day, my boyfriend invited me to a party where most of his friends also work in tech. I was kind of nervous because I wasn't sure how I'd fit in with this group. They all seemed to talk about their jobs in a way that made work seem like the center of their lives. I'm someone who defines myself by my passions, not just my job, so when they asked me about myself, I shared what I love to do outside of work. I told them that I'm an avid hiker, I do archery, I love road trips, camping, and dirt biking, basically, all the things I do in my free time. I was hoping they'd see me for the person I am, not just my career. When they asked about work, I gave them a very honest answer, but in a way that clearly wasn't what they expected. I said, "Oh gosh, I don't want to talk about work at a party." I spent my whole day sweating my ass off in 95-degree heat trying to replace this busted-ass motor, only to find the replacement part was also broken. I wasn't trying to downplay my job or make it seem like it wasn't important, but I wasn't in the mood to talk about work when I was trying to enjoy a party. I figured they'd understand that it's just a job I do to pay the bills so I can enjoy my hobbies. As the night went on, though, the conversation started to take a weird turn. At one point, I was talking to my boyfriend about how car dealership repairs are a ripoff, and I mentioned a childhood neighbor whose trailer caught on fire, and how I was planning to go help her out. I didn't think much of it, just casual talk about my life and things going on, but apparently, it gave the wrong impression. Later, when people started getting drunker, some of his friends started making jokes. They were calling me a gold digger, implying that I was just with my boyfriend for his money. And since they were mostly strangers to me, and they clearly didn't know me or anything about my life, I felt really uncomfortable and insulted. The comments they made were beyond rude, borderline misogynistic. They were saying stuff like, "She's just after his money, she's a gold digger, she's just here to find a richer guy." Honestly, it was pretty hurtful, and I don't know why they thought it was okay to say stuff like that. But what really bothered me was that my boyfriend didn't say anything. He didn't defend me or speak up to his friends. I knew he had smoked some weed earlier, and he said it made him quiet and unable to keep up with fast-paced conversations, but still, I was left to fend for myself. I was pissed, honestly. I thought, where's the support? Why is no one saying anything about these shitty comments? So, at that point, I snapped. I turned to the group, trying to hold back my frustration, and said, "Why the hell would you say that when I make twice what he does?" The room went silent for a second. I continued, "There ain't no gold to dig here, not with him or anyone at this party. So do y'all think I'm cheap, or do you think I'm stupid?" It was dead silent for a moment, and then the mood shifted. Some of the group didn't know how to respond, and it seemed like they realized they'd crossed a line. My boyfriend, on the other hand, wasn't happy. He immediately said he wanted to leave the party, and he was visibly upset with me for calling out the situation the way I did. He said that by bringing up how much I made, I humiliated him, and now everyone would think I was a bitch. I was frustrated by that because, in my mind, I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I was just standing up for myself after being talked down to by people I didn't even know. I told him that I would have kept quiet if he'd said something earlier when they were making those comments, but he didn't. He just kept saying how I embarrassed him, and I, in turn, felt like he wasn't even standing up for me, which made me feel unsupported. He said I was overreacting and that I shouldn't have gone off like that. I was frustrated because all I did was defend myself, and it was like I was being painted as the villain for doing that. Before we left, I flippantly said, "Well, at least now they know I'm a rich bitch," trying to lighten the situation a little, but it didn't really help. Things have been tense since that night. My boyfriend feels like I shouldn't have mentioned how much I make, while I feel like I shouldn't have had to mention it in the first place if he'd just backed me up. Now, I'm stuck in this situation where I feel like I stood up for myself and did nothing wrong, but he's mad at me, and I'm frustrated with the way things went down. He says I shouldn't have made such a big deal out of it, but it feels like I was just trying to be honest, and I don't know if I was in the wrong. Am I the asshole for explaining why I'm not a gold digger?
I'm currently in medical school, and as part of that, I live across the country from my family, including my brother, who's getting married soon. I didn't expect to be part of the wedding at all, especially since I don't really know his fiancée very well. But one day, she reached out to me and asked if I'd be willing to be a bridesmaid. I was surprised, but she explained that she wanted to have all the siblings in the wedding, and since I'm his sister, she wanted me to be included. I was upfront with her about my situation. The wedding happens to fall during my final exam week, so I made it clear that while I'd do my best to be there, I wouldn't be able to contribute much to planning or attend events like the bachelorette party or bridal shower. She assured me it was fine. She just needed someone to round out the number of bridesmaids for symmetry in the photos. It didn't seem like a huge commitment at that point, and I agreed, even though I knew it would be a bit of a challenge to balance with my studies. A couple of months passed, and a group chat was created for the bridesmaids. I would check in on it from time to time to get updates on things I needed to do. The main task at hand was ordering a bridesmaid dress. The bride sent out links to a few different styles and told us we'd receive an update on the color soon. Weeks went by, and I kept checking the chat to stay in the loop. Finally, I asked what color I needed to order, and the bride replied that she was still thinking about it. A couple more weeks passed, and the response was the same. I started to get concerned because the wedding was coming up, and if I didn't order the dress soon, it wouldn't arrive in time. But every time I asked about the color, I got no response. Eventually, it got to the point where I needed an answer. So, I asked again in the group chat on a Saturday what color the bridesmaid dresses were. Still, no response. I followed up again on Sunday, and this time I was flooded with messages, most of them from the bride's sisters, my own sister, and the bride herself, telling me how unprepared I was. They all started lambasting me for not ordering the dress yet. My sister called me and told me to get my shit together and order the dress, as my lack of action was apparently causing the bride so much anxiety. The bride even sent me a text that morning saying, "Don't forget to order your dress, love you," with smiley and kissy emojis. But here's the problem. No one had told me what color I was supposed to order. I had gone through the group chat multiple times, but with so many messages, it was impossible to find the color information. I assumed they had probably decided on the color in person, since everyone else could meet face to face, but I wasn't included in those conversations. It honestly felt like I was being left out on purpose. Then, about an hour ago, my brother called me. He was practically pleading with me to sort things out with the bride because she was apparently in a panic about me not having ordered my dress yet. I tried to explain to him that I had no idea what color to order, but he didn't really care. He said it was a petty ladies' issue, and that since I wasn't there for anything else, like the bachelorette party or bridal shower, I needed to do at least this to avoid seeming like I didn't care about the wedding. He even implied that the bride thought I didn't like her because I wasn't attending anything. I was incredibly frustrated at this point. I've been doing everything I can to focus on my medical exams, and my family knows how intense my schedule is. I've explained to them time and time again that I have no control over when my exams are and that I live on the other side of the country, 5.5 hours by plane. It feels like they're completely disregarding my responsibilities and just expecting me to drop everything for a wedding that's far away and at a time when I'm already stressed out with exams. I'm at a breaking point now, and I'm seriously considering just telling my instructors that the wedding has been moved and that I'll take my exams at the regular time. That would give me more time to study and allow me to avoid all this unnecessary drama. But I haven't told anyone in my family about this yet. So I'm asking, WIBTA, would I be the asshole if I decided to back out and take my exams as originally scheduled? After reading some comments, I decided to finally call my mom and ask her what color the bridesmaid dresses were supposed to be. She told me it was lavender, but when I looked up the options online, I found colors like pearly lilac, periwinkle, and orchid purple. I texted the maid of honor, the bride's sister, to confirm, and instead of just giving me an answer, she sent me a long multi-paragraph message lecturing me about how I should have ordered my dress already. She told me they've been trying hard to accommodate me being across the country and that I was causing unnecessary stress. I finally got her to tell me the color, and it turns out it was mulberry all along, which is actually a darker wine purple shade, not lavender at all. She then told me to order a lighter dusty purple instead. I sent her a screenshot of all the light purple options on the website and asked which one was the right one. She didn't respond for a while, so I called her on the phone. She was really upset because it was past 10 p.m. there, but when I asked for clarification on the color, she basically told me I needed to get my ducks in a row if I wanted to stay in good standing with the family. At this point, I'm seriously fed up. I don't understand why it's so hard for them to just tell me the damn color. It feels like they're deliberately making this harder than it needs to be. I called the bridal salon to ask for the dress color details, and it turns out that 4 dresses were ordered in Flint and 1 in mulberry. The maid of honor had misled me into thinking mulberry was the color for everyone. So I ordered both a mulberry and a Flint dress, but I only told the maid of honor I ordered the mulberry one. I flew across the country for the wedding rehearsal and arrived with the mulberry dress, expecting to sort things out. When I showed up, the bride started crying, saying I had made a mistake and that I couldn't wear the mulberry dress because it was meant for the maid of honor. I pretended to be really upset and said I would call the bridal salon to see if I could fix it. I went back to the hotel and got the correct dress in the Flint color. Miraculously, my friend at the salon had found a return in my size. The next day, I showed up with the new dress, and the bride was shocked. She had to explain to the makeup artist that I was an additional bridesmaid, which was awkward because they had never planned on me being in the wedding at all. The ceremony went fine, but at the reception, there was no place setting for me or my little brother. We had to squeeze into a couple of random seats, and they brought us our food much later because they had originally planned for 1 less bridesmaid and 1 less groomsman. My brother, the groom, seemed irritated, but the bride and the best man distracted him. Later, he found me and asked what happened with the seating. I showed him proof that I never asked to be dropped from the wedding and that I had just been misled. He seemed satisfied with that, but I could tell the tension was still there. After the wedding, they went on their honeymoon, but my brother came back early, alone. I guess we can all figure out how that went.
Me, 48 male, daughter, 21 female, Aria, abandoned us, her stepmother, younger half-sister and me, when she was 15 to go live with my enabling ex-wife Sandra and her husband. Until then, we had 50-50 custody, but Sandra has always been less strict than me. She's always let Aria do what she wants and has never had any home rules. She also buys Aria everything she wants so she will want to live with her. Sandra lives in the same town where Aria's high school was, while I live 25 minutes away. So, one of my rules was that if she went to meet up with a friend there, meaning I had to drive her, the next time they met, it was her friend's turn to come. If the friend's parents didn't want to drive the kid here, then Aria wasn't allowed to meet them again while she was with me. Everything was fine that way for years. The major fallout happened in her last year of high school. She was 15. She went on a trip to another country with her school and didn't bother to send more than a couple texts when she was away for 5 days. So I decided to ground her, because she had to learn to respect and show some love for her family. She insisted she had sent messages to her mother, but we had barely heard from her. She's never had a lot of friends, but she had been invited her to some popular girl's birthday party. This was my punishment, not going to that party after forgetting about her family. She got upset and started calling her mother to come pick her up, but it was illegal to get her if it was my week. Plus, she wanted to go to her mother's because she would lift my punishment and let her go to the party. Her mother came by the end of the week, and I told Aria that she didn't have to come back if she didn't want to. I waited, but I heard nothing from her again. Her sister kept asking me why she didn't come back, and I didn't know how to explain to her that she didn't love us, and that she preferred staying with her mother, her parties, and her free-of-rules life. Over the years, we've communicated through lawyers, because Sandra has zero intentions on helping me get my daughter back. She finally has her to herself. They've been demanding that I pay for child support, even now that she's 21 years old. I have to pay for that, and for half of her college expenses, by law. When Aria turned 18, an adult, I started adding up everything I had to pay in an Excel that I send to Sandra when I update it so she knows what damage she is doing to our daughter. I expect Aria to pay her debt, but I gave Sandra the option to pay for her, to which she refused. We are now at 18K. Arya has been trying to get in touch again. I told her that we can't fix the emotional part unless we fix the money part first. She needs to prove to me that she doesn't only care about the money. Sandra says I'm an asshole, but I think she is, since she has done nothing but try to take my daughter away, and she finally has what she wants. So, am I the asshole?
This weekend I went over to my boyfriend's apartment to spend some time with him. He was deep into studying for exams, so I figured I'd help out by making him a nice dinner. I've always been the type to cook for people I care about, and he's been stressed out with school, so I thought it would be a nice way to support him. I made pasta with a chunky sauce, complete with meatballs and lots of veggies. It was a pretty hearty meal, something I thought he'd appreciate after a long day of studying. When dinner was ready, I called out to him, letting him know it was time to eat. He came into the kitchen, and before even looking at the food, he asked, "What's for dinner tonight, bitch?" and put a lot of emphasis on that last word. I was shocked. I mean, I've been called a lot of things in my life, but that word, especially said like that, really hit me hard. I've had some bad experiences in the past where people in my life used that word to put me down, so it really set me off. I know he wasn't calling me a bitch to be hurtful, but I was already on edge that day. Work had been exhausting, and I just didn't have the patience for it. Honestly, I was so irritated that I dropped the entire pot of pasta sauce. It splattered all over the floor. And without thinking, I just said, "Well, nothing's for dinner now. And I better not hear you use that word again. It's for the girls." I don't know why I said that, but it just felt right in the moment. Of course, he wasn't happy about the sauce landing on his rug. He started freaking out, asking how I could let that happen. Then, to make matters worse, he said, "You're seriously acting like a bitch right now. I don't know what else to call it." And that was the last straw for me. I just couldn't believe he was still defending using that word after I'd made it clear how much it bothered me. At that point, I just walked out. I was done. I didn't want to be around him anymore, especially not with all the drama. So I went to my friend's house, grabbed some takeout, and spent the night there. My friend thought it was funny, but I was still furious. My boyfriend started texting me, sending me voice messages, trying to explain himself. He kept saying that "what's for dinner, bitch?" was just part of a TikTok trend, and he was just quoting something as a joke for TikTok. I was so frustrated. To me, it didn't matter that it was a joke or a trend. It was still disrespectful, and I wasn't about to just let it slide. It didn't change the fact that he thought it was funny to demean me when I was literally doing him a favor. I came over, made him dinner while he was studying, and instead of being grateful, he thought it was the perfect time to make a joke at my expense. So, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and just spent the rest of the night relaxing with my friend and her roommate. The next morning, things got worse. He sent me angry texts, demanding that I clean his rug because he was too busy studying for exams. I couldn't believe it. He left that sauce soaking into his rug all night, and now he was expecting me to clean it up? That was just disgusting. I texted him back and said, "Yeah, so that's the BTIC-tax, honey. Leave me alone until you're ready to handle your own cooking and cleaning because this bitch isn't doing it anymore. Also, it's vile you left that soaking in all night." He called me and we started arguing. He tried to downplay it, saying he was fine with doing his own household work. but that I did throw the sauce on the ground. So it was on me to clean it up. I told him, "Yeah, no, I'm not comfortable doing chores for you if you see me like your batch." He tried to say that he didn't see me that way, and that it was just a joke, TikTok trend. I was beyond frustrated by this point, so I said, "Well, I'm starting a new trend called saucings, where people throw pasta sauce around as a little joke. You can't be mad because it's just a little prank, right?" He got so mad. He hung up on me. And that was when I really started wondering if this dumb TikTok joke was going to be the end of things between us. It was honestly so ridiculous. But I was also really hurt that he couldn't see why I was upset. Later, I made an edit to this post to address some comments. People were asking if I had told him not to call me a bitch. Like, how would he know otherwise? But honestly, I don't think I should have to spell it out for him. If a grown man hasn't figured out that women don't like being called demeaning slurs by men, then that's beyond me. It's not something that needs to be said. I shouldn't have to go through life saying, "Hey, just in case you were thinking of calling me a bitch, I don't like it." It's common sense, and it's basic respect. I shouldn't have to explain this, but here we are. So, AITA for how I reacted when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight, batch?" So after everything that happened, I decided to call my mum to ask what color the bridesmaids' dresses were because I had to order mine soon. She told me the color was lavender. But when I looked at the website, the colors listed were pearly lilac, periwinkle, and orchid purple. I texted the maid of honor to ask her which color it was. And instead of just telling me, she gave me a long lecture about not having ordered my dress yet. She tried to explain the whole thing as them accommodating me, being across the country, and all this other stuff. She finally told me it was dusty purple. But when I asked which of the 3 dresses that were labeled light purple matched it, she just said light purple. That was it. Honestly, I felt like they were trying to make everything on me. I was getting a little fed up with all the back and forth and the lack of clear communication. So I went ahead and got the dress, but the whole situation just felt like a mess. I ended up finding out the real color. It was mulberry, which is a dark wine purple. They had been trying to make me think it was all the light purple shades, but I caught them. I went ahead and ordered the right dress, but when I showed up, they tried to make a big deal about it. The bride was in tears, acting like I had messed up everything. I played it off and pretended like I had made a huge mistake. But in the end, they had to adjust everything, and the wedding went on. It was awkward, but I think they got the message that I wasn't going to just sit back and be disrespected anymore. So now I'm wondering if I was too harsh, but I don't think I was. I just wasn't going to let him disrespect me, even if it was a trend.
I, 28 male, and sharing a deeply personal story that has completely transformed my relationship with my girlfriend, 27 female. We met during our college years, where she was an international student pursuing her dreams in a foreign country. Our connection was immediate and profound. We fell in love, built a life together, and seemed destined for a future that would intertwine our paths. For 5 years, we navigated the complexities of a modern relationship. She was ambitious and hardworking, quickly establishing herself in her professional field after graduation. I, on the other hand, was continuing my academic journey, pursuing a master's degree. We lived together, shared expenses, and maintained a partnership built on mutual respect and individual independence. Our seemingly stable world was suddenly disrupted when her company underwent a corporate acquisition. In an instant, her job and visa sponsorship vanished. The stress of potentially being forced to leave the country she had grown to love and, more importantly, leave me was overwhelming. She became consumed with job applications, spending countless hours searching, interviewing, and hoping for a lifeline. During this tumultuous period, I was discussing her situation with a close friend. He made a straightforward suggestion that would change everything. I could sponsor her visa. At first, the idea seemed both simple and complex. Could our relationship bear the weight of such a significant legal and financial commitment? When I initially proposed the visa sponsorship to her, her reaction was nuanced. She was simultaneously touched by the gesture and deeply concerned about appearances. Her biggest fear was that I might perceive her as using our relationship as a mere pathway to permanent residency. She wanted our love to be pure, untainted by transactional implications. We consulted an immigration consultant and began exploring the paperwork. She took the lead in research and preparation, meticulously documenting everything. The process revealed the intricate legal responsibilities involved. As her potential sponsor, I would be financially accountable for her for 3 years. This meant if she required any government assistance, I would be legally obligated to reimburse those costs. Despite our initial enthusiasm, doubt began to creep into my mind. The weight of total financial responsibility felt increasingly burdensome. The more I contemplated the long-term implications, the more uncomfortable I became. This wasn't just about helping her stay in the country. This was a legally binding commitment that would significantly impact my future. When I finally revealed my hesitation, the conversation was emotionally charged. I explained that while I loved her and wanted her to stay, I didn't feel ready to assume complete financial responsibility for her circumstances. My words, intended to be honest, came across as cold and detached. From her viewpoint, my withdrawal felt like a betrayal. After months of emotional stress and uncertainty, my reluctance to support her felt like a fundamental rejection. The love and partnership she thought we shared suddenly seemed fragile and conditional. Unable to secure another visa sponsorship, she was forced to leave the country. Our farewell was laden with unspoken pain and disappointment. Her parting words that she now saw me differently suggested our relationship might be irreparably damaged. In the weeks following her departure, I was confronted with the reality of my decision. Our mutual friends unanimously condemned my actions, viewing them as a selfish and heartless betrayal. Yet, I remained conflicted, believing I had the right to establish personal boundaries. I found myself missing the intricate details of our shared life: her cooking, her presence, our routines. The void left by her absence was profound, yet I struggled to reconcile my emotional attachment with my previous stance on visa sponsorship. This story is a complex exploration of love, responsibility, and the challenges faced by international couples. It raises fundamental questions about the extent of commitment in a relationship and the delicate balance between personal autonomy and partnership.
I, 31, have a brother, Tom, 28, who's been dating his girlfriend, Harper, 25, for 4 years now. They're not married, and they've both made it clear that they never plan to get married. But the thing is, Harper calls herself SAL, sister-in-law, even though she isn't. That's just the beginning of a whole lot of weirdness surrounding their relationship. Tom and Harper don't have any kids, and Harper doesn't work. That would be fine if it weren't for the fact that they're struggling financially. They had to move in with our parents due to their mounting debt. Of course, this doesn't exactly sit well with the family. My parents aren't thrilled with Harper, especially because she doesn't contribute financially and seems to spend her days planning elaborate events instead of getting a job or helping out in a meaningful way. Now, this is where it starts getting a bit odd. Harper spends all of her free time planning events, birthday parties, holidays, you name it. But here's the thing, none of us actually asked her to do this, and none of us really want it. Harper treats every single family event like she's the wedding planner for some extravagant celebration. For example, she makes these insane spreadsheets in advance, sometimes weeks ahead of time, for any gathering. The spreadsheet will include detailed sections like who's in charge of the food, how many people will be attending, what the budget is, and the options we have for food, but let's leave it open for debate later. Then, there's a section for decorations that tells us what colors we should have, who's in charge of cleaning before and after, and attire suggestions for everyone. And it doesn't stop there. She even adds things like entertainment. Yes, she assigns people to be in charge of karaoke, games, and music playlists, and sometimes even a slideshow of pictures she decides we should watch together. Let me be clear, these aren't big gatherings. These are things like birthdays for 1-year-olds. My own 1-year-old, in fact. So, when she comes in with a 20-page spreadsheet about how the event should go, the family collectively rolls our eyes and says things like, "Harper, it's a birthday party for a 1-year-old. There will be 10 people there. Please, just stop with the lists." But Harper doesn't take this well. She gets moody and upset, acting like we're ungrateful. If only you did it my way, she'll pout, everything would be so much more special and memorable. Fast forward to this year's Easter, and I'm hosting at my house. It's no surprise, my place has a large yard that's perfect for the kids to hunt Easter eggs. Harper, of course, decided to take the reins for this event, just like she does for everything else. She sent out another one of her infamous spreadsheets. This time, she added a section titled Easter Hosting Responsibilities. Apparently, my job as the host was to properly clean my house, which included weeding and mulching my flower beds and removing a dead tree on the edge of the property. At the bottom of the list, she included a section labeled Tips and Tricks for Lawn Care. It was like I was being hired to host a wedding and also to prep the venue. But that's not all. Harper also took it upon herself to plan the menu. She said she'd take care of cooking the food, but she also set a very tight budget of $120, $155 if I wanted her to bake a cake. I don't know if you can sense where this is going, but the entire thing rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't want to be rude, but I couldn't handle it anymore. So, I shot back a quick email to her saying, "Who invited you?" She responded with a bunch of question marks, obviously confused. So, I texted her back and said, "Unfortunately, there will be no +1s to watch my kids hunt Easter eggs in the yard. If I let my brother bring a date, then I'd have to let everyone else bring dates too, and we've already hit our budget just buying a grocery store ham. Sorry, I'm sure you understand how these things are. Best wishes." I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. Harper stopped talking to me entirely. I wasn't surprised, but then things started to heat up. My brother got mad at me, my dad thinks I'm being petty, and my mom was happy because she doesn't like Harper. My wife, on the other hand, told me to act my age and stop with the drama, but since it's my family, she left the decision up to me. But here's the deeper context, which a lot of people have been asking for. Harper's behavior has been a problem for years. When she and Tom first moved in with my parents, she started pushing the whole "I'm the SAL" narrative, even though everyone knew she was just a girlfriend. My parents were not thrilled about this, but my dad, being the softie he is, allowed her to move in with them. My mom? She can't stand her. But the thing is, Harper has always acted like she's part of the family. She's been trying to insert herself into every family gathering, treating it like she's in charge of everything. She's even corrected us when we've referred to her as Tom's girlfriend, demanding we call her SAL instead. At every family get-together, she'd push for things to be bigger and more extravagant, often suggesting that we add a few $100s to the budget. Every time, we had to shut her down and tell her, no. No means no. But Harper doesn't take no for an answer. Instead, she gets passive-aggressive and comments on how special our family moments would be if we just let her take the reins. My brother, Tom, has always been indifferent about it. He doesn't really care either way. For him, Harper's just another girlfriend, and he hasn't been motivated to marry her, even though she clearly treats him like a king. It's a toxic relationship, but that's another story. I'll admit, I've been rude to Harper. I know I haven't handled things as gracefully as I could have. But to me, it feels like we've all made it clear that we don't want her in charge of these events, yet she continues to push. I've tried to ignore her, but it gets harder when she won't stop trying to control everything. Some people have asked me for more Harper stories, and believe me, my sisters have plenty of them. My mom too. But the bottom line is this: I'm tired of her disrespecting my boundaries, and when she pushed for Easter to be her event, I had enough. I told her no in the most direct way possible. But now, the family's divided. My brother's mad, my dad's calling me petty, and my mom's secretly thrilled. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for banning Harper from my Easter gathering?
I've been married for 10 years to a man with an extraordinary and complicated friendship that has always been a source of tension between us. Our story begins long before our relationship, rooted in a college friendship that evolved through marriage and ultimately transformed into a deep platonic bond that would challenge every conventional expectation of relationships. My husband met his ex-wife during their college years. They dated, married, and then mutually realized they weren't romantically compatible. Instead of separating completely, they chose to remain incredibly close friends. A decision that would dramatically impact our relationship from its very beginning. When we first started dating, he was brutally honest about her importance in his life. A few months into our relationship, I discovered she wasn't just a friend, but his ex-wife. He was crystal clear. She was one of the most significant people in his life, and if I couldn't accept that, I should walk away immediately. His exact words were, "I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years, and she's one of the most important people in my life." During our engagement, I attempted to discuss boundaries. His response was bewilderment. Why would marriage change his friendships? I suppressed my discomfort, convincing myself I could manage my jealousy, but internally, I resented every social interaction, every lunch date, every shared movie. She seemed to understand a part of him I never could. Their friendship continued uninterrupted. Lunches, movie outings, casual conversations, all with a comfort and ease that felt like an intrusion into our marriage. When I occasionally expressed concerns, he would shut down the conversation, reminding me that I had already agreed to this arrangement. Then came the unexpected, her sudden death from an aneurysm shortly after they had lunch together. She died walking to her car, and my husband was devastated. While he spent days grieving, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. Finally, I thought, this complicated relationship was over. But I was wrong. When I suggested he shouldn't attend her funeral, suggesting he had mourned enough, he became angrier than I'd ever seen him. He declared he would burn our marriage to the ground, if necessary, to honor her memory, emphasizing that besides me, she was the closest friend in his life. Her husband, my own sisters, and their mutual friends all condemned my stance. They insisted their relationship was purely platonic, calling me heartless and even a ghoul for my reaction. The truth is, I never felt comfortable with their relationship. For years, I silenced my feelings, wanting desperately to make our marriage work. Now, with her gone, I want him to finally be done with her memory. Am I the asshole for wanting my husband to move on and not attend the funeral of a woman who was technically his ex-wife, but emotionally so much more?